All right, everyone, it looks like it's 9:30, so we'll go ahead and get started here. So welcome everyone to the first session of the 2020 Hemp Summit, titled Win-Win for the Environment and the Economy, How Hemp is Good for the Planet. My name is Michael Roth, and I've had several great opportunities to learn about industrial hemp during my time as a William Penn Fellow with the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. So it's our hope to share information with you to learn more about industrial hemp too. To help us with that, we have three wonderful panelists today. First, we have Cynthia Petrone-Hudock from Hemp Alternative. We have Dr. Fatemah Etemadi from the Rodale Institute, and we have Dr. David Arscott from Stroud Water Research Center. To begin with, we'll have presentations from all three panelists. While the panelists are presenting, please feel free to send us questions using the Q&A function in the bottom of your Zoom page. Following all presentations, we will get to your questions. So with that, we'll start with a presentation from Cynthia. Cynthia, take it away.
Great, thank you. You all good? You can see? Great. Thank you, Team PA, for hosting the event and for the untiring support of the Pennsylvania Department of Ag, Kathy Thomas, Sarah, Ruth, Len, Fred, and of course, Secretary Redding. A quick disclaimer, I'm an investor in and an advisor to New Frontier Data. You'll see the reference material in the presentation. If you have any questions on charts or graphs, please note in the Q&A, and I'll be glad to connect you with an analyst to further discuss. But today, I speak to you as a farmer partner, Jamie Hicks, Meadow Springs Farm, and Juan Medina Specialty Crops, a business manager. We launched Hemp Alternative in the fall of 2018, and truly an investor in the Pennsylvania hemp industry. I always like to start with a quick story. Our farm was recently visited by Representative Chrissy Houlihan. She toured our grow, first the fiber, and then drove with us over to the cannabinoid field. And she listened to me for over an hour. A woman in 2018 deciding to get into farming in an emerging industry that's a regulatory hotbed. And if that wasn't enough, in my mask, attempting to survive an economic impact of a pandemic. So she turned to me and she asked, why are you still doing this? And funny, but she actually stumped me. My first reaction was, I'm in so deep, there's no turning back now, mentally, physically, financially. But then I collected my thoughts and I remembered why I got involved in the first place. There we go. The fascination with the plant, its potential for a win-win, and the social hurdles of what I consider simple education that must be overcome to reap the benefits. Over the next 2 days, we will speak of the plant, all forms in its entirety, whether your interest lies in fiber, grain, cannabinoid flower, oil, stem stalks, how it's grown, harvested, processed, and the environmental impacts along the way. It's the collective work that we do to move the industry forward that's most important. I believe true entrepreneurism is needed as we conquer the hemp frontier. It's not just about an immediate return on investment. But with that said, let's talk about markets and demand. I know what all you fiber folks and grain folks are saying. It's the CBD craze. Here we go again. But just let me take a couple slides here and go through some market demands on cannabinoids. So although many veterans would tell you, don't gamble what you can't afford to lose, there's encouraging news as we turn around and head into 2021. And it's not just about vaccinations. Big data and analytics firms are entering the hemp industry. Ad tech services like the platform New Frontier Data just launched are emerging to connect cannabinoid-infused products to consumers. 73 million US CBD consumers segmented by demographic, lifestyle, interest, knowledge level. We know big business and investors are hovering, and if the election is any indication, all 5 states approved red and blue. Momentum will soften concerns, allowing an increase in capital investment. Global cannabis consumer demand continues to grow, and states in the US are explicitly passing legislation to allow infusion for CBD into foods and beverages. Now I wanted to stop a moment on this graph and everyone take a look at Pennsylvania. What do you notice? It's the wrong color. So this is putting medical marijuana glasses on. But consider this, in PA, even medical marijuana growers and processors are not allowed to purchase our wholesale CBD from hemp growers and processors in PA. These medical marijuana companies need high quality CBD at reasonable prices. It's too costly for them to grow on their own for their formulations. And yet here we sit on our inventory and no outlet. So an education initiative we need to embrace and take forward. Although these estimates were developed prior to the pandemic's impact on consumer spending, take note of the figures, the market potential is very strong. And by the way, this is a picture of our distillate. It's exciting to see our 2019 crop move through the production line. Coming from the healthcare background, I would be remiss if I didn't touch on the alternative medicine considerations. In the past, I've attended CanEx in Brazil in 2018 and virtually in 2020. It's a conference that unites the world's most influential scientists, clinicians, entrepreneurs, investors, policymakers to impact the field. Here's just a short listing of the abstracts presented in 2020 and a short quote from Dr. Mechoulam, who turned 90 years old this year, as he points out the identification of the endocannabinoid system. I personally focus on geriatric patients in chronic pain, and if you stop to think about alternative medicine that could improve care and reduce the cost of healthcare, we could impact Medicare. Now let's turn to the fiber discussion. The US again in a catch-up position. Global corporations have acknowledged the vast opportunity, and now with Democrats in the White House, there's a renewed focus on environment and sustainability. But the heavy lifting is in R&D, accomplishing formal studies, whether it be for grain, food products, or environmentally friendly materials. I believe what's key is really partnering in this approach. So to study and educate, to find real market value and those willing to pay a little more to save the earth, then build supply chains and allow for economies of scale over time. These are some of our bales, and you'll hear from Dave about our partnership with Stroud Water Research Center. We've also partnered with Jefferson University Design, Engineer, and Commerce College to study and develop sustainable products for the horticulture industry. You'll hear more about their services tomorrow from Dr. Ron Kander. So we're starting with the concept, vetting with the voice of the customer, and engaging the consumers, both B2B and B2C. It's not a build it and they will come approach. Oh, my slide doesn't want to move. Oh, hold on a second. Sorry, my slide kind of jammed up here. There we go. Sorry about that. So for all you fiber folks that are frustrated by the CBD craze, take note, consumer who are CBD users are twice as likely than non-CBD users to have purchased other hemp products. So in closing, at a minimum, we should be cautiously optimistic, and some of us will stay bullish. And I'd like to pass along a few words of wisdom. When it comes to what you see in here, don't let it drive quick decisions. Do your homework. And as Secretary Redding once said, you need access and connectivity, and you can get that through the PA Hemp Steering Committee. I co-lead the Research Needs and Opportunities Subcommittee. There are 3 other subcommittees: Farmers and Processors, Supply Chain and Markets, and Policy and Regulation. Please reach out and get engaged. Thanks, and back to you, Mike.
Thank you, Cynthia. Great presentation. So now we're going to turn it over to Fatemah for her presentation.
Hello, everybody. I'm Fatemah from Rodale Institute. I'm trying to share my screen. Yes. I'm Fatemah Etemadi from Rodale Institute, and I'm very happy to be in the conference to explain some of the research conducted by Rodale Institute about industrial hemp. And I'm talking about our trial, but firstly, I should mention how we talk about this multi-purpose crop as eco-friendly. So everybody knows why we grow hemp, because it does have many uses as a multi-purpose crop, and it can be efficient for environment as well as increasing farmers' income. As you can see, we can use hemp in different parts. We can use stalk, leaves, flowers, seeds for many uses. And in different industry, we can use seeds to in food industry. Also, we can use it in fiber industry. Also in pharmaceutical, we can use flowers to get some oil out of it. In building industry, we can use it as a hempcrete. Also produce biodegradable water bottle. And also in car industry, we can produce some different car parts. But what makes hemp such an eco-friendly alternative? There is 6 ways that we can explain it. Actually, it can growing without pesticide. So it can grow very fast and then can be a substitute for many unsustainable products like non-organic cotton, which currently use a lot of herbicide and insecticide. Also, as an industrial scale, hemp doesn't need herbicide to grow. In comparison with some large industrial product like soybean and cotton, those use significant amount of pesticide, but if a fraction of those crops could transit to hemp, it would have a big impact on pesticide global use. It can be a good alternative for cotton, because as an alternative fiber material, it's very durable and also look like cotton. About the quality, it's very breathable, soft, and strong material. But in the agricultural scale, as I told previously, it doesn't need that much pesticide or herbicide. Based on World Resource Institute, cotton use 11% of pesticide and 24% on insecticide in the world. And also about using water, cotton requires 10,000 liters of water to produce 1 kilogram fiber, while hemp needs 2,300 liters of water for that amount of fiber. And also cotton takes 3% of world's land, while hemp produces 2 to 3 times fiber in that same land. So you can see how hemp can be a good alternative to cotton. Also, hemp requires little water. This is other benefit of hemp comparing to other crops in agriculture about the using amount of water. So agricultural industry use about 70% of fresh water, while by growing population, we need more water and food. Then we need crops with low water demand, which hemp can be a more sustainable choice in this benefit. Talking about fossil fuel, you may know that fossil fuel affect on our environment and human health, but hemp can be used as biodiesel, which is made of plant material. Problem with current biodiesel is that they takes up valuable cropland, which can be used for farm food, while hemp can grow in a variety of soil, climate, and it doesn't allocate valuable farmland. So this biofuel made from hemp seed rather than stalk, and it shows the versatility of hemp. And the other use of hemp is using in building industry. And in building industry, as you know, cement and concrete are usually used for building, and demand for concrete and cement increasing by 7% annually. which cement is the primary ingredient in concrete and second most consumed resource in world. In compare, hempcrete made from hemp is used used mostly in France. It's less breakable than concrete. It can be used as a formal insulation. So it's a very good material for insulation in building industry. And the last benefit that it helps our environment is that make biodegradable plastic. Based on United Nations, more than 8.3 billion tons of plastic have been produced since 1950s, which you see that this is a big amount. And it shows that one plastic bottle, it equals 450 years to be degradable. But if we made that water bottle made from hemp, it takes 73 days to be degraded. So this compare shows that if we make plastic out of hemp, it's more lightweight and a strong alternative to the oil-based plastic. One of the most important challenges in organic farming, it's suppressing weeds. Knowing that since hemp was illegal to grow for so long, we have lost information about how to grow hemp. Rodale Institute conducted different research to discover how to cultivate hemp. Actually, it's better to say rediscover because we lost all of those information. To be a source of information for farmers who wants to put hemp as a sustainable crop in their cropping system. In this regard, Rodale Institute conducted different research, including CBD trial, which was planting CBD varieties and to know how the nutrient management in CBD to produce higher quality and quantity. Also variety trial, we planted different fiber, dual purpose and seed variety to see which one adjusted better in this area in Pennsylvania. Also timing trial to compare different date of planting for seed, dual purpose and fiber variety. Also, we had nutrient management trial, which we applied different organic sources of fertilizer to our seed variety. Finally, weed suppression trial, which was one of our interesting research because we put hemp in compared to sorghum and fallow in the organic system with soybean and wheat to see how it can suppress weed compared to sorghum Sudan grass. And it was a 4-year rotation trial. But here, based on all of our experiment we had, I want to talk a little about how hemp can be helpful to support weed, to suppress weed, I'm sorry. As you can see in the picture, this is hemp that we planted besides sorghum Sudan grass, and we have another plot besides them which were fallow. And so in our rotation, we planted sorghum and hemp in the spring, and then after that we planted rye, teal, and no-till. Then after that, in the next spring, we planted soybean. In the fall, we plant wheat, and in the following year, in fall, plant wheat. In the result, as you see, comparing 3 different hemp varieties that we planted, fiber, dual-purpose seed variety compared to sorghum, it shows that the fiber variety was the tallest after sorghum. after sorghum. And in case of biomass, among all of those, it produced hemp, Santica, which was the fiber variety, produced the highest biomass after sorghum, but dual purpose and seed produce less biomass. And this is important because producing more biomass shows that it can cover the land and doesn't let light and it limits the light to grow wheat. Also, the other table shows, I just wanted to show, this belongs to our variety trial. I just wanted to show that not all of the fiber variety can be adjusted in our climate. And it depends, depends on the variety, which is very adjusted in our area. So ivory, which was another fiber variety, produced less biomass. So I can say Santica was the best fiber variety for our purpose. In soybean and yield and wheat yield, we planted soybean in 2018, and it shows that this is the average yield of soybean. It shows that the yield planted in roll down rye mulch, which was previously established with and without tillage, exceeded the national average yield, which was 52 bushels per acre. And also it was exceeded other fields around our farm. So in this regard, wheat pressure also reduced in plots that had hemp or sorghum in previous years. In 2019, we planted wheat, which it shows that wheat was those planted following soybean tend to have higher yield in plots, which rye cover crop was established without tillage before. This trend was observed in plot previously planted hemp and sorghum. Average wheat yield, as you can see, was exceeded national average in that year, which was 62 bushels per acre. This picture shows our soybean plots after hemp, which doesn't have wheat pressure, and it was out yielded of other farm plants and also our previously soybean plants. As a conclusion, I can say hemp can help transition to sustainable agriculture. Also, hemp and sorghum Sudan grass in our rotation trial equally suppress yellow foxtail. Also, hemp can suppress ragweed better than sorghum Sudan grass. Soybean and wheat yield were increased following hemp. And in general, wheat pressure was reduced following hemp. Hemp can be a viable wheat suppression cover crop that is higher value than something like sorghum Sudan grass, because if a farmer plant hemp as a cover crop instead of sorghum Sudan grass, it can be used for other benefit of hemp, like fiber. It can increase farmers' income besides being a cover crop. At the end, I should appreciate, as a Rodale member, I should appreciate fund providers to support us, including Pocono Organic Gardens, Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, Dr. Bruno's, and Purdue University, that we have some experiments collaborating. And this is my email address. I would be happy to answer any questions, and also after conference, if you have any question, I would be happy to contact with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Fatemah, for that great presentation. Last but not least, we're going to hand it over to Dave for his presentation.
good, thank you. I need Fatemah to stop the screen share in order to start mine. There we go. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here today. And thank you all for joining. I'm Dave Arscott, Executive Director at Stroud Water Research Center. And I've been asked to join the panel to share with you some work that we just started in 2020, collaborating with Cynthia and others to understand the hemp crop influence on soil health. And from the Stroud Water Research Center's perspective, we're interested in the influences on environmental water quality and water quantity off of farmlands in general. We do quite a bit of work understanding the health of our streams and rivers in Pennsylvania and around the world, and recognize that what we do on the landscape results in changes to water quality and quantity. So we become involved with several different types of farming systems, and now hemp fiber as well. So the goal of the study is to better understand influences on soil health and water quality. We're looking to quantify effectiveness for those attributes of the farm field and water, as well as weed suppression benefit, tracking needs for fertilizer, pesticide, and of course, evaluating crop growth, density, and yield. As I mentioned, this is the first year of our study, so data on the water side are still forthcoming. I should acknowledge the partners on the project, of course, Hemp Alternative, and Jamie Hicks and others at Meadow Springs Farm, and Jefferson University is interested in exploring hemp fiber and the fiber qualities and processing into usable products. I won't spend a lot of time going through the potential environmental benefits because Fatemah did a nice job reviewing sort of the state of knowledge on the environmental benefits. But I'll leave these slides up here long enough for you to have a quick read. I will add a few points on bioremediation, which is not necessarily the focus of our study, but I saw a question in the Q&A box there. Some may have heard about the plant's ability in this phytoremediation area to scavenge pollutants from soils, particularly in brownfields or contaminated sites. There's been some nice body of research. Of course, more is needed, but that research has shown the ability for the hemp plant to scavenge heavy metals from the soil, even if those metals are not necessarily detectable by our current analytical methods. Those metals have been notable: copper, cadmium, nickel, lead, zinc, and chromium, to name a few. There's a nice summary paper by Cole on the Pennsylvania Hemp Industrial Council's website if you'd like more information on that topic. Again, I will sort of zoom over these other environmental benefits to get to my slides. Fatemah did a nice job looking at or summarizing the water use and comparing the water demand for growing hemp versus other fiber crops, notably cotton. Well, the study that we are undertaking, we're committing to more than one growing season, hopefully over the next 5 or so, is right outside the Stroud Water Research Center. The field acreage is about two acres in planted area, but here you can see the aerial photo for the farm field of interest. And what's notable about this particular field is a number of years ago, we had put in other water management, best management practices to capture runoff. This field's on a hillside, so it has a significant slope to it, 8 to 12% grade. It's been historically corn, soybean with cover crops, and we've had quite a while been doing no-till as well. And you can see this feature in the landscape called level spreader that's basically a linear ditch to capture water coming off of the farm field, excess rainwater. And we have water level recorders and passive water samples in there to look at the total volume of water as well as water quality or chemistry coming off that field. And then there's a tributary nearby that the water would naturally drain towards. With one growing season, we've done some preliminary studies to look at soil cores and the soil quality. And we have some preliminary information about storm runoff off of this field, as well as infiltration tests in the field, and some measures of plant tissue chemistry, including some heavy metals, and we've been tracking growth and density. Just a quick look at our study design for core sampling. We aim to do these every year or every other year to measure changes in the soil quality and soil health that may occur as we move from a corn soybean to a hemp fiber growing system. So this year we got started a little bit late. It's not recommended to plant too close to the solstice. I think the recommendation is 40 to 50 days prior to the solstice, but this crop got planted on June 8th. Fiber seed source is Phyllobrechia, and was seeded about 55 pounds an acre. We did have an application of glyphosate to terminate the cover crop. And as I mentioned, this was previously under no-till. So the seeding was into crop residue and no fertilizer was added after. The only data I have to show you is more on growth and climate or weather data. You can see average temperature up at the top there. The green line shows the maximum plant height in inches. So up to about 60 to 70 inch at maturity before harvest. The blue bars show the precipitation events, and then the red is accumulative precipitation. The primary point here is after planting, we had sparse rainfall during germination and early growth, which may have influenced the germination success and the rate of plant development over time. So here we see hemp fiber growth over time with sort of standard deviations and maximum plant height and minimum plant height. At the end, we terminated after 76 days. I think the yield was estimated about 2,400 pounds per acre, which is a bit low, probably relates to the low water availability during germination and early growth period. Other estimates for yields or average yields range from 2 to 12 tons per acre, depending on a lot of factors, with an average around 5 tons per acre. After harvest, we had regrowth occur. Just a note here that this regrowth persisted at least up through November 19th and a little bit beyond there. Even after a couple hard frosts at 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Just noting the cold hardy nature of hemp in general. And I will just summarize by saying, we're continuing this study. It's a multi-year study, and we'll continue to examine soil health metrics, particularly as it relates to water infiltration, and runoff water quality, as well as plant tissue and crop growth. And thank the funding and sponsors of the research, and turn it back over to Mike for questions from the panel. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. That was great information. Yes, we're going to switch over to the question and answer session. So we have a few questions here for the panelists. So the first one, we're going to start here for Dave and Fatemah. Hemp is often cited as an effective phytoremediator, as you had mentioned in your presentation, of heavy metals like lead and cadmium. Does your research on your own projects reflect this? And do you think hemp could be a serious contender when it comes to phytoremediation, say, of brownfields and other sites in an effective manner versus more traditional means?
Okay. So
go ahead,
I can answer my part. Based on our research, we found out that hemp could absorb heavy metals. So we planted hemp in an area which soil, we analyzed soil, and soil showed had heavy metal, specifically lead, arsenic, and cadmium. And then after harvest, we analyzed biomass of hemp to see if it absorbed and how much was it in the plant. And it showed that it absorbed heavy metals, the maximum amount which was in the soil, it could absorb it, while it was between the limit that could be, which is permeable for medicinal plant and edible plant based on FAO. So the lead was, if I want to say a number, the lead was between 0.3 to 0.9 ppm, arsenic was 0.05 to 0.3 ppm, and cadmium was between 0.02 and 0.04 ppm, which was like below the allowable limit of heavy metals concentration in plant. But yes, it can absorb heavy metals, and that's why when it comes to using CBD oil from CBD hemp, there is a concern if if concentration or extraction of oil wasn't in a good situation, there is a concern of having heavy metals residue in the oil. If I answer completely, just let me know.
Yeah, that was excellent. And I'll just say that the field that we've planted into is not a brown field and is not known to have high concentrations of contaminants. However, we are measuring metal accumulation in plant tissue and have soil samples out for analysis to better understand what sort of metals may be in those soils so we can have that comparison. So stay tuned for future results.
Yeah, great. Looking forward to that data. And Cynthia, a question for you relative to the business of hemp. If someone's been inspired by this presentation and seen all the wonderful environmental benefits that hemp has and wants to address that and start growing hemp, what's the best way to find the right partners, especially during these unique times we're living in, and how can they move forward to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you can always start with the steering committee for sure. But what I found very successful is develop your personal relationships within the industry across the country. You can use a lot of hemp associations to do that, become members and start joining their blogs and their chat rooms. Certainly you can do research on the internet if you have access. But number one, do your homework, right? And then once you talk to folks, it's actually a matter of having developed kind of a checklist of what you think a great partner would be, and then using your gut a little bit to say, yeah, this is somebody I want to become a partner with for the next 3 to 5 years.
Great, thank you. And the next question, I think probably Fatemah for this one. When it comes to the absorbing of the lead or cadmium, whatever it might be, do you happen to know if there's any structured way that folks are supposed to dispose of that, or what the best ways to do with that, or the concentrations in the plants, could they still be used for building material, things like that? Do you happen to know?
Actually, the best answer for that, it's based on what is the use. So there is a lot information that we need to research about it. For example, having heavy metals in the biomass or in the seed or in the CBD oil, it could be very dangerous for human health, while it can be not dangerous if it want to be used in building industry or in fiber industry. So it basically, it's very important to know what use, what is the use. So in our experiment, in our experience that I had, we planted CBD hemp in an area which was the industry area with a heavy metal residue. So after harvesting, we found that there is heavy metals, but this is below the limit. That's very important to know about the limit that can be hurtful for human health. Also, the other important thing is that if we want to prepare some of the products, we should know how it processed. One of the important things to, for example, to make CBD hemp is that there is different extraction method, which one of them can reduce that heavy metal residue in the CBD oil. So when you want to buy a product like CBD oil, you should know, it's better to know what was the extraction method. For example, the extraction method which use CO2 extraction, which name is CO2 extraction, it's the best but expensive, the most expensive process for extracting CBD, but it caused to reduce heavy metals in the product. So it's, in general, it's very much, firstly, depends on what kind of use you want to do and what was the processing method to get the final product.
Great, thank you. And Cynthia, over to you. We have a question about the Hemp Steering Committee. If you could just give us a quick overview and maybe speak to what your subcommittee hopes to do and how you hope to do it. Just a general overview would be great. Thank you.
Oh, great. Yeah, so our primary goal is to really support the Ag Department. We've seen great success in partnering and giving guidance on the 2021 permit process, for instance, really acting as the voice of the growers and the processors and those interested in developing the hemp industry here in PA. Specific to our subcommittee, we're focused on funding for research. We're focused on almost like an incubator advisory service for folks who want to stand up businesses. Also focused a little bit on helping filter the noise of the media, right? Because there's so much out there. What is the really good information that you can depend on? And then finally, some focus on supplier references. Who are suppliers out there that you might want to tap into to get started and someone you could trust. So exciting times.
Great. This next question, I think any one of you certainly could chime in here, but we have some questions regarding, hemp has been gone for so many years from Pennsylvania, and we've sort of lost, what did best here. Have any of you come across or through your studies, identified certain hemp varieties, crops that do well when it comes to fiber, that seem to perform well and seem to hold up in Pennsylvania weather and climate conditions?
Well, I'll start. I think Fatemah has a little bit more experience with different varieties. We've just planted the one variety this year, Bilobret. I never pronounced the seed correctly, Bilobrekia. And in future trials, we expect to test other seed sources or varieties for performance. And as I mentioned, we probably got a late start this year, so did not see this crop reach its potential according to other studies. I think out in Colorado, there's been a lot of work showing that it's a pretty good variety for fiber, both in time to maturity as well as thickness of the stalk and other qualities. But, Fatemah, other insights?
In our experience, so we planted Kanda, a seed variety. Actually, it names dual purpose, dual variety, but it's mostly seed variety, which wasn't successful in our area. But in case of fiber, we had Anka, we had Futura, Santika, which Santika and Futura was very successful in our area. Also in CBD hemp, we planted Kriche. It was in Pocono area, which was very successful. But we didn't compare it with other CBD hemp because we actually chose the best one based on previous experience on that area. So we chose the best CBD variety. So it was that one. But in case of fiber, I can say Santika 27 was the best one, as well as Futura in this area.
Cynthia might have a few other experiences from CBD. Do you have those varieties on top of your head?
On the fiber side, I think last year we grew CSR1, which I think a lot of folks in PA may have grown. But as I say, it's, there's too many variables to compare, Dave, to what you grew this year. But on the cannabinoid side, I struggle with this because I feel like sometimes the regulations aren't encouraging us to do a lot of trials with new cultivars here in Pennsylvania, which we've discussed with the ag department, and we continue to evaluate how we can perhaps give research permits a little more leeway. The biggest concern for any grower trying a new cultivar is that you'll end up with a violation when you really don't know the cultivar, or you don't know the cultivar relative to our region. So without naming specific names of cultivars, I just sort of am on this quest to get the regulations to support our ability in PA to test these out in a study method.
Mike, I just want to add something else. Thank you, Cynthia, because you mentioned that cultivar should be adjusted in the climate and the region. That's a very important thing, because as I mentioned in my talk, we had a variety trial, and it shows that ivory, which was one other fiber variety that we plant in our trial, it's very important that that kind of variety is adjusted on your region in climate and soil. We planted Kanda in another region, which wasn't successful, but it was in Pennsylvania. And it's very interesting that it wasn't successful, while in another part of Pennsylvania, Kanda was the best seed variety. So that's very important, that what is the soil and what is the climate information if you want to choose the variety. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. And it does look like we have a session on varieties of hemp coming up here later on in the summit. So if you are interested or have more questions about that, please feel free to check out that session. So unfortunately, we are running out of time. If we didn't get to your question, don't worry. All the questions in the Q&A will be saved and will be reviewed. So please feel free to keep checking those or ask questions later. That works too. So I just want to take a second to say thank you to all of our panelists today. And if we could give them some virtual applause, that would be great. A little bit different. And also just wanted to encourage everyone, please network virtually by using the chat, connecting with your business profile on the main 2020 Hemp Summit website. And please visit the forum as well to connect more. So following this session, we'll have a 10-minute break, and then our first round of breakout sessions will begin at 10:30. You can find the link for your desired breakout session in the schedule tab And again, just thank you all so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit. And now we'll hear some information from our sponsors. Again, our Hemp Summit sponsors, our top level sponsors are Lancaster Farming, King's Agri-Seed, PA Agricultural Business Development Center, and Air Products. Thank you so much.
Did you know industrial gases can help improve the harvesting and processing of industrial hemp? The same air products gases that have been used safely and successfully for over 60 years in the food and pharmaceutical industries can also be used by hemp processors to improve the quality and yield of their product. Gases such as ultra-cold liquid nitrogen and related equipment like our tunnel freezers can help make your production process more efficient. Flash freezing your harvest prior to storage prevents mold and locks in the plant's rich chemical content. During the grinding process, adding liquid nitrogen to the conveyor can eliminate oil stickiness that causes clogging and subsequent downtime. And when cold extracting, liquid nitrogen can be more efficient removing the desired oils, all resulting in improved quality and yield. Talk to us and work with our application experts to review your process and identify opportunities. We have a state-of-the-art applications lab to test your product, or we can visit your site for field testing. Let's work together to improve your hemp production process. Visit our website for more information.